Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunj Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya YASODA Nandana Braja YASODA Nandana Jaya Sachinanda Jaya Guru Hari Jaya Sachinanda Jaya Guru Jaya Jaya Sachinanda Jaya Guru Naam Prabhu ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanam Janashalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Nama Shrishtam Manumapi Satriputram Atra Sharupam Rupam Tasyagrajamurupurim Matharim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Radhikadhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamnatasmi Vancha Kalpataru Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nikhila Shruti Mole Ratnamala Didi Nirajita Padapankajanta Aji Mukta Kulairupasyamanam Paritashtam Harinam Samshrayami Anarpitacharim Chirat Karunayavatirna Kalu Shramarpaitamunnataj Palarasam Sabhakti Shrim Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaye Kandaresh Purato Vasachinandana Ajanulambita Bujo Khanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambaro Dwijabaro Jugadharma Pala Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataru Ladini Shakti Sarupaya Gauranga Suridaya Bhakta Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namastate He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Radha Kanta Namastute Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabjadatam Bhaktya Lakshay Kriptashchakamaditarangamadhi Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapanam Vrinde Namaste Sharanarabindam Vrinde Namaste Sharanarabindam. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadri ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Brahma-stuti ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Preman. So, good morning to all of you. Well, thanks for coming. To those connected on as well. And we are continuing today with a series of lectures that have begun a few months ago in Kansas, United States, and are continuing bit by bit in the different spots I'm visiting. And I'm not so sure where will it end, because it's quite a long series of verses, 40 verses presented by Brahma, called the Brahma-stuti, or the homage or prayers of Sri Brahma. So since it's the first class I'm giving here in Bulgarian, I'm not so sure how many of you have been maybe familiar with background to these prayers. I'll share some words about that, and then we go to today's verse. We are studying one verse per class. Today we'll be studying verse 16. We are in class 18, verse 16. So briefly, as you may know or not, Brahma, first manifest being in the universe, as you know, the architect of this multiverse. He's born from a lotus coming from the navel of Vishnu, but he doesn't know that when he's born. So basically, intuitively, he's searching for his source, symbolically speaking, representing our journey. We are born to human consciousness, if you will, if you want to. It's kind of parallels, of course. Brahma is human and is not human. He has a few more heads than us, but somehow his journey represents ours, like being awakening, as Guru Maharaj will say, in human life to certain questions, to the why questions, existential inquiry, but not finding answers, looking around him, nothing is here, it's only me, and some hint to my source. So he starts to go down the lotus, how do you say? Stem, thank you. In search for his source, but he's just trying looking to find for his source by his own endeavor, and the source never ends. The journey never ends, and he cannot get to his source by his own endeavor. He returns to safe land on the lotus, and he hears this word, this indication from the environment, if you will, tapa. Instead of try to look inside, try to search out of your own strength, try to engage in tapa. Tapa basically means fire. And fire basically in this case means, and he didn't have anything to light the fire. It was only Brahma. There was not even wood, fire, anything. So fire means try to look inside, try to close your senses, try to cancel your mind towards the outward good, and close your eyes and see. He received that hint. So he followed the hint. So he engaged in pratyahara. He closed all the windows of the body. And eventually the result of that was he received grace. He did effort, but now the effort was assisted by grace. Grace was the voice who told him, tapa. So he followed grace. He continued doing his best possible effort, but now in the context of grace, that give rise to the darshan of Krishna eventually. He saw Krishna. in his heart. Remember, he was inside. He was totally close to the outside, and in the inside, following the hint of Tapa, tried to look inside. He found something very interesting, which was what he was looking for. He found his father, he found his guru, and he found his source. And at that moment, there is some interaction that is described in the Bhagavatam. And at one point, Brahma becomes moved by Krishna's instruction, who is giving him Chaturshloki, the seed of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, and so many other things, instructions as to how to conduct himself in the creative affairs in a way that he doesn't become entangled by that. And eventually also Krishna treats him, Brahma, as a friend, interestingly. So he as his guru, some Sakya Bhakti Samskars. So Brahma expresses, he receives those impressions. Krishna takes his hand. He says, like, you have treated me like a friend, treat as a friend. So well, you have opened a window for me that I didn't know. I didn't even conceive about this possibility, but now that you're taking my hand and treating me like a friend, I express some affinity. You express that, I express in reciprocation. I would like to be your friend. So what's this friendship about? So Krishna basically smiled and said, it's work in progress. It's on its way. You will have a trailer of that very soon. Meanwhile, you continue engaged in the world, do what you have to do. You have some desires, you have to express them in a proper context, aligned with my will, and eventually you will know what this Sakya is about. So some time passed, some few ages for us, some brief moments for Brahma, and eventually he had that possibility, and that happened in Vrindavan, in the Dwapara Yuga that just passed, just a few thousand years ago, and where Brahma has the opportunity of witnessing Krishna's Braja Lila, especially his Poganda Lila, in the context of the first blossoms of the Sakya Rasa chapters of his life, where he's going to the woods with his friends, and they are planning on one particular day to have their first picnic ever. So you can imagine all the emotional content present there, for a group of friends to be finally free from the shackles of parental affection and go to the forest totally able to do whatever they like, however they like, having first picnic. I mean, that's a big portal. So all this excitement is there, and eventually, of course, many things happen. That's a very interesting day. Agasur appears into the scene, and we know the whole story. I won't enter into the details of that. But that's such a situation when Agasur is killed and is entering Krishna's body. I'm making a long story short. The whole world and universe and devas and people from other planets come to the scene and start to praise Krishna, and Brahma receives this news like, what's going on? So he goes to see what's taking place, and he finds Krishna. Remember, he saw Krishna in the beginning of creation, but now he finds Krishna in a very different situation, because after killing Agasur, Krishna and his friend says, okay, let's resume our picnic, which didn't happen yet. So let's have the picnic. So Brahma is having this unique, again, Sakya darshan, Sakya mandal darshan, circle of friends that he wanted. He expressed in the beginning of creation, I want that. Krishna said, okay, it's attached to, so be it. So now he's looking at that. Krishna is in the fullness of his informality. He's the god of informality in Vrindavan. So how much the god of informality can remain God? Where informality prevails, intimacy predominates, the word God retreats totally to the background and becomes buried under layers and layers of intimacy and affection and informality. So this is a very unique example of that. So Krishna is with his friends having the picnic. As you know, there are no forks, no spoons, no right hands used, no rules and regulations followed. While Brahma, who is the very epitome of rules and regulations, the very like symbol of doing things how as they should be done, uh, finds himself in a shocking situation because his own guru, his own father, apparently behaves in a way that seems to be like counterintuitive to what a guru should be doing and a father should be teaching and God, how God should be behaving. So Brahma enters into this kind of bewilderment, Vimohan, Brahma Vimohan Lila, which means the bewilderment of Brahma. So, this is first. Brahma has 4 heads, so we could say at this point, one head of the 4 to spin. So then Brahma says, no, this must be an impostor. This cannot be my guru. So I have to do something about it. I have to show this to and prove that to him. So he tries to kidnap Krishna's friends and Krishna's calves. Again, make very short. He thinks he's kidnapping them. He thinks he's putting them in a cave. He thinks. So that's second Vimohan. That's not happening. So he lives to Brahmalok for a moment, and a whole year passes in Vrindavan. And actually, they say that these kids and calves remain in one particular Prakash portal in Vrindavan without being touched by Brahma. And Krishna expanded, and for a whole year of unearthly time, he was them. Basically, he knew their hearts so well that nobody noticed that for a whole cows and fathers and mothers in Vrindavan who somehow wanted to have Krishna as their child, that's their natural feeling, they had opportunity in this year, basically. And nobody noticed that, even Balaram. But after a year, Balaram starts to notice there's something strange here, there's something weird. And what's this, the weird thing? Everybody's loving their child more than Krishna. That's weird. I mean, for us, may not be weird. In this world, there's a lot of jivas. We still may love more our child and family than Krishna. But for Balaram would say that's weird. Balaram is a personification of the Guru principle. So Guru comes to tell you that shouldn't be happening. That's not the proper order of things. Priorities: love God first. No? First commandment in Christianity also. First God, then everything else. Because everything else is connected with God. If you invert the order, you lose everything. You lose God and you lose everyone else as well. You just remain with a so-called connection with anyone. So Balaram realized this. It's just strange. Parents and mothers in Vrindavan are loving their children more than Krishna. That shouldn't be happening. Cows are loving their calves more than Krishna. How can this be? Everyone loves Krishna more than anyone else. She's the center. So he starts to suspect. Eventually, Krishna reveals that to him. So anyhow, eventually Brahma returns on earth to see what disaster he has caused, but he realizes everything goes normal. Indeed, especially normal, because everyone has more love than before. So what's going on? So he goes back to the so-called cave, called kidnapped people, and he sees those illusory representations there. And he thinks, no, they are here. So he returns to the village, and they are there and still there. So he goes back running to the cave, thinking maybe Krishna is taking them when I'm leaving to the other place and putting them in the other place. So he goes as fast as he can. Again, at this point, two heads of Rama are like spinning. So still, it's not B Mohan, it's Mohan. Mohan means some level of bewilderment, and B Mohan means super, hyper, plus bewilderment. And then, as you know, the climax of all this is at one point Brahma is looking at all these calves and boys, which are Krishna actually, and all of them start to show themselves not yet as Krishna, but as Narayan, as God. And not only one Narayan, but one Narayan coming from each one of these personalities, and Brahmas worshipping, different Brahmas worshipping those Narayans, some of them with more heads than the 4-headed Brahma, with witnessing the whole thing. So the highest level of Aishwarya you can possibly imagine. Not even in Vaikuntha this happens, but in Vrindavan, interestingly. But Krishna shows such a level of Aishwarya only to Brahma. He didn't display that in front of the Brajavasis. That would be too disturbing for them. So he knew when and where to show that. So this is as my Guru Maharaj would like to say, this shows in practice Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, the main line of the Bhagavatam. Krishna is the very source of all forms of divinity, even God. Krishna is the source of God. So here, Brahma saw that in motion. God coming from Krishna. Many gods, many Narayans coming from one little Krishna. So at this point, 3 heads of Brahma were like spinning like nothing you can imagine. He was totally overwhelmed. And remember, he thought this is an ordinary boy doing ordinary stuff with ordinary people. And now he's realizing from all these so-called ordinary personalities, God is appearing over and over again. So what's going on here? And just to make it the ultimate chapter and the ultimate 4th head spin, all of this unique Aishvaric manifestation at one point suddenly wraps up. And the only thing that remains is Krishna with the morsel of food in his left hand, and he's kind of bewildered himself, looking for his calves and boys that Brahma kidnapped. So he's like, and at this point, Brahma's forehead is like spinning, exploding. So Brahma is watching all that from his swan, but it is said that after such a manifestation, he falls from his swan to the earth. To say that the devas never touch the earth. That's what makes them different, special. But in this case, Brahma is leaving his labeling as deva, and he's just putting his head on the dust of Braj, which is not just the earth, falling on the feet of Krishna, and starts to cry and to bathe his feet, doing abhishek with his own tears, cry with full repentance, realizing the measure of his aparad, lila aparad, rupa aparad, parishad aparad, offenses to the associates, to the interruption of the picnic, to the lila, to the form of Krishna thing. This is fake. No? Not Nama Parad, as Guru Raj makes the point. That's why he received shelter in Nama. He became Haridas Thakur and attained ultimate success. But we are not going there yet. So Brahma, with full repentance, is taking turns his 4 heads and offering pranam to Krishna's feet and bathing them with tears from his 8 eyes. And then comes the prayers, Brahma-stuti. I'm saying this because we may just go to the prayer and think, oh, it's 1 verse. But if you keep in mind the context in which all this is happening, the emotional moment that Brahma is going through, that helps to make sense what he's trying to say. So through all these prayers, I won't go through the first 15 we already did. You have to see the classes there online if you want. But basically, Brahma is making sense of what he saw at the beginning of creation, what he has felt, and now what he's fully accommodating and realizing by having what the darshan he had recently here. So he will establish the whole basic foundation of our Gaudiya Siddhanta through his prayers. And by doing so, he's making sense of the feeling he wants to attain with Krishna and Sakhya Bhav. Because again, you want a certain bhav, it has to be sustained by Siddhanta. So Brahma spontaneously is doing this. And with every verse, he's increasing his humility and realizations about who Krishna is. So now we are in a series of verses in which Brahma is establishing the supremacy of Krishna's position. 2 verses ago, he shared a very important, famous verse in which he's saying Narayana Anga. Basically, he's saying Narayan is your limb, which is a pretty Gaudiya revolutionary statement. No, Narayan, which is generally known as God, he's an aspect of you. So generally, we don't think like that. We think Krishna is an aspect of God. I mean, not we, people in general. Krishna is an aspect of God. We may even speak about that as Gaudiyas without noticing. But actually, the real accurate point is God is an aspect of Krishna. There is something beyond God. So this is a very unique theological point. So Krishna is more than Narayan. From an Aishvarya perspective, Brahma just saw that this darshan with unlimited Narayans were coming from one single little Krishna. There's much more Aishvarya in Krishna than in Narayan. And Krishna is more than Narayan from a Madhurya perspective. Because you cannot have picnic with Narayan. No. Maybe interesting with 4 arms taking different things, but that's another thing. That's not happening. That's not happening. Especially the Sakya that Brahma wants to attain, that's not possible in Vaikuntha with Narayana. So from both Aishwarya perspective, Madhurya perspective, Krishna is higher than Narayan, if you will, deeper, the source of. So that's a brief recap of what we saw till now. So I will make now another recap from the last verse, because every verse is somehow connected with the next one. So I hope you have time. It's early in the morning. We have eternity to engage in Harikatha. If you need to leave, no problem, but hopefully you can stay. So I'll make a brief recap of of yesterday. Last class verse was like 10 days ago. Verse 14. So Brahma, after again saying your form and you are the source of Narayan, now he's reflecting what's the meaning of this. I mean, he's saying something in one verse, and then he starts to reflect on what he said in that verse, in the next verses. So we should learn from this as sadhakas. No? We should, if we say something about Krishna, or some insight comes, or some prayer is invoked, we should think about what we just said and try to elaborate on that, and try to reflect and to ruminate. My Guru Maharaj would like to say, we want to go to Golok, which is the planets of the cows. Golok means planet of cows. Golok. So we have to become cow-like. We have to become like a cow. In many ways, we can say that, but I was thinking the other day, one of the ways you have to become like a cow is cows ruminate a lot. You follow ruminate? They like chew, they eat the grass, and they're like, and slowly, and they are not in a rush. They're like, and that will take time. Ruminate, that means ruminate. They're like chewing and chewing and chewing. And then, so we have to engage in that same, think about this and rethink about that. Not just like an intellectual game, but just like giving ourselves to reflect deeply and meditate and pray and continue doing so, and again what we have received that has already been ruminated on by our parampara. I'd like to quote this line of the Bhagavatam. Puna punascharpita charvananam. Prahlad Maharaj mentions that in the 7th canto. In another context, he says, material life is chewing that has been chewed. So like trying to mention, there's nothing new there. It's like if I'm chewing a, how do you say, bubble gum, and I give you want to chew, it's like, But whatever comes from the Maya Shakti market is basically that. It's something that has already been chewed and tested and tried. It's not working, but somehow with nice packaging. So let me try one more time. You already chewed that before. That's even weird. It's like you chew your own gum that you left and you take it again. And oh no, but now it seems they make again bright and some nice name there. So let's try it again. Maybe there's some drop of rasa of juice still remaining, but you already took everything away. It's not nourishing at all. No, it's not that doctor will recommend in your diet. Take lots of gums. That will be so much nourishing. Anyhow, but I would like to say, chewing the chewed in this case means parampara and the sadhu have ruminated and thought and deeply reflected and chewed and so on these words and truths, and they are giving us the remnants through Harikatha. They're speaking and we are hearing and we are receiving that, and we are trying to honor that Mahaprasad, and we ourselves chew that has been chewed, and new realizations have to come. And that's parampara. Everyone is like a cow ruminating what they have received from their elder cow, if you will. So one of the ways we have to become cow-like if we want to enter the planet of cows. So that's like the other day someone was asking. I mean, I didn't reply like that. Maybe it was too much. It would have been too much for him. But when I was on Sunday in the temple and someone asked me, so what do we have to do in order to enter Vrindavan? Something like that, right? Which are like the conditions or what we have to attain. This could be one of the replies. Enter Vrindavan becomes to become cow-like, and become cow-like means these and these and these and these. So anyhow, still I have not even started officially with today's verse, even with the summary from last class. So last verse was verse 14. So Brahma is reflecting on Krishna's darshan. of Krishna's darshan that he had at the beginning of creation in this case. Because remember, he had just had a very unique darshan 5 minutes ago, but he had a very unique darshan in the beginning of creation also. So he had lots to ruminate on. So he says, verse 14, previous verse, my dear Lord, if your transcendental body, which shelters the entire universe, is actually lying up on the water, then why were you not seen by me when I searched for you? And why, though I could not envision you properly within my heart, did you then suddenly reveal yourself? And why could I not see you again immediately thereafter? So again, he's referring to his he's referring of the darshan he had at the beginning of creation, where he had darshan of Krishna in his heart, but actually the source of his birth in the lotus was Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Vishnu lying on the coastal on the waters, if you want to put it in words. So that's what he's saying this. So basically he's saying, he's rhetorical, presenting a rhetorical question and saying, if your body is material, of course it's not, he's making that point, but if it will be material, why I couldn't find you when I looked for you in the waters? Despite, I mean, like, basically what's the point, not because when I liked. And when you disappeared, I make big effort to see you again, but I was not able. Like implying, it's not that I can see you when I like, when I want. You can be seen only when you want to be seen. So that means you are totally beyond the reach of mind and senses, and so on. So basically, this is one perspective from which Brahma is trying to make the point: your body is not material. Your body, it seems material, seems ordinary, especially he's speaking now to Krishna, whose body seems pretty much human size. And again, we sometimes take this for granted. No, we, for the first day in our, we know, oh, Krishna, who is that little blue boy? Oh, he's our God. Who's Krishna? Okay, nice. That's Krishna. That's God. Okay, that's love. And we may take for granted, but we don't really play out the implications of that. What does it mean? What does it mean that Krishna has a form, and that, but the form is unlimited? How a form can be unlimited, and all these type of things. So Brahma is trying to make this point over and over again. No? Your form is spiritual. Why? Also because when Brahma was invited to do tapas, we mentioned today, tapa, no? He entered samadhi, and in samadhi he saw Krishna. In other words, you can, I mean, whatever you see in samadhi is beyond the mind and senses. If you can see something material in samadhi. So if whatever Brahma saw in samadhi is the form of God, of Krishna, it means his form is not material because he was seen in samadhi. But also it can only be seen by his mercy. He's giving his darshan. We cannot construct, as the song says, a stairway to heaven. We need a stairway from heaven. And then avaroha panta, descending process, then we can know. And in this verse, Brahma calls Krishna Bhagavan, which means, of course, many things. But in this case, the commentators mention means that his Aishwarya is inconceivable. And Brahma just witnessed it again some minutes ago. And he's totally devoid of upadis, or limiting designations. So, some words regarding the previous verse. So from this verse that we saw as last class till verse 22, the commentators will say that Brahma will further explain Krishna's position. So there are like sections in all these prayers. There are 40 verses, but in between there are different sections. So after Brahma said, Narayan is your portion, now he's trying to, again, explain such a unique statement that generally is not being said. Narayan is God is your portion. It's like, what's the meaning of that? So Brahma is trying to explain that. So I'll share some words from Jiva Goswami to begin with, from his Bhagavad Sandarbha, which kind of connects the previous verse with today's verse. So he says in the Anucheda 34, can we open some window? It's some lacking of air. I know there will be some drone in the background, but no problem. Thank you. So Jiva Goswami says, in this way, the body of the Lord, which includes Narayana as its part, contains even the universe, which is within material nature. Sri Krishna showed this form that was also experienced by his mother. So now comes today's connection. Brahma cited his own experience to establish that the Lord's all-pervading and transcendental. I'm really too quick, sorry. I forgot that someone in there. Next, he offers more evidence by referring to the experience of Yashoda. So he has spoken about his experience in the beginning of creation, Krishna's form is unlimited, and so on. But just to give more strength to his case, he will quote even a higher authority. Yashoda ki jai. We will go then to today's verse 16. I forgot, I asked Radha Giridhari, but I forgot to re-ask. I mean, we are already done, but for next class, you have some whiteboard or something? So we can write the Sanskrit. So, no. But just for you to be able to follow the Sanskrit, because we will be referring to the words and so on. So maybe for next class. And if that's...
Here, she prepared it.
Okay. Okay, next, not for today, but for the next one, just for you to know, and we can have it there. So I'll recite the Sanskrit for a moment. And this verse 16, this is in Indra Vajra Chanda. So Chanda means like the meter of the verse. So they are not in the same meter, all the verses. Indeed, they are very different meters, every verse almost. So it says like this. Yeah. Maya Tvami Kritam Te. So, translation. What am I saying to Krishna? And remember, try to keep the concept, emotional. My dear Lord, in this divine descent, you have proved that you are the supreme controller of Maya. Although you are now within this universe, remember he's seeing Krishna in front of him, the whole universal creation is within your transcendental body. A fact you demonstrated by exhibiting the universe before your mother, Yashoda. So again, try to imagine the situation. Brahma understands, has realization. The universe is within your body, but now I'm seeing your body apparently within the universe. But I know that it's not the case. Actually, the universe is within you, but you seem to be now in front of me in three-dimensional situation within the universe. And he relates his bewilderment to the bewilderment. Of course, not exactly the same, but it's a very similar thing. So let me briefly go through the Sanskrit of this verse, each word by word, and then we will go to some explanation given by different acharyas, commentators. So first line say, Atraiva maya thama navatari. Atraiva means in this very, which refers to in this very descent, in this very avatar. You will go to the word avatar later, but Atraiva means in this very appearance of yours. Maya Dhamana. Maya Dhamana means a name which is, O you who are doer of Maya. So with this, Brahma is putting everything in context. You are a subduer of Maya, so even if your form appears to be inside the universe, I mean, that's not touched by Maya. The universe is made of Maya Shakti, but you're the subduer of Maya Shakti. So you seem to be here, and everyone who is here mostly is subdued by the universe, if you will, by Maya Shakti. But by Brahma calling Krishna Maya Dhamana means you are above the law of this universe. You are actually controlling it and so on. Then he says avatare, which means at the time of your avatar, of your descent. The second line is hyasya prapanchasya bahipsputasya. So hyasya no, he means certainly. So many times the word certainly he appears in Brahma's prayers. He means certainly, like he's kind of confirming in his epiphany, certainly this is a fact, like implying I'm seeing this now, I'm realizing that it's not just fanatically certainly this is like this and you have to believe. I mean, he's really seeing that. It's a brief word that says a lot. Asya prapanchasya means this world, of this world. Bahi sputasya. So bahi sputasya means which is outwardly manifest. Third line means Kritsnasya chantar jatare jananya. Kritsnasya means entire, cha means and, antar jatare means inside the belly, and jananya means unto your mother. And the last line, maya tvam eva prakati kritam te. Maya tvam means your maya, your bewildering potency. Eva prakati kritam te. Eva means indeed, another way of he, certainly, indeed. Further pounding the post. Prakati kritam means has been demonstrated te by you. So that's basically the word by word in which Brahma is saying that same thing that I'm seeing now has been demonstrating to your mother, basically. That you are in the world, but you are not of the world, as my Guru Maharaj would like to say. But not only that, but the world is inside of you. Although it doesn't seem so. You just were in a picnic some minutes ago, like an ordinary boy, but now I'm realizing all the universe is inside of you. That's pretty. Try to imagine in 5 minutes such a degree of change of opinion about someone. No? So this is an ordinary boy. 5 minutes after, you are the source of all universes. My gosh. In a few minutes. That's a pretty intensive treatment. So Brahma is still, again, recovering from that shock. I mean, he's still in the Vimohan, not in the same Vimohan as before. No, first Vimohan is, I think you're ordinary. Now his Vimohan is, I'm trying to realize who you are, and I find no limit to that. And this is deeper and deeper, and every single verse I'm more and more bewildered about who you actually are. So it's another form of bewilderment, a desirable one. So let's go to the different commentaries, which is generally how we are invited to go deeper into the Bhagavatam by taking the hands of our previous acharyas who have poured their hearts by reading into the lines of these verses and showing us what they actually mean. And I will begin with some words by my Guru Maharaj, like for those who have been here in some of the classes, you may know already. But he has written a commentary on the Brahma-stuti in what will be his forthcoming book. So when I was asking him some months ago, I was sharing him my idea of doing a series on Brahma-stuti in this series in this journey travels. So I was asking his blessings and permission, and he told me, actually, I've written a commentary on that. So I was like, so okay, so what's implications of that? Like, if you want, I can give it to you to share. I said, okay, that will be very generous. So I'll begin with that. So he gave me some further indication how to conduct this series. So what I've been doing is I'm beginning by reading his brief commentary to each verse, and then going to the other commentators, beginning from ancient ones and going to the like Sridhar Swami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti mostly. So I'll begin with my Guru Maharaj's commentary, which is named Bhaktivedanta Bhavanubad. Bhavanubad is a way of like replicating the verse, but while adding some other ideas from other commentators, one's own insights, and put all of them into prose format. This is very brief. Here my Guru Maharaj is paraphrasing Brahma, and Brahma is saying, and your mother's claim, and is like connected to what was previously said, and your mother's claim that she saw the universe inside you as she looked within your mouth is further evidence in support of my earlier point, that the external illusory world is also within you, even when it appears to be outside of you. So this is my Guru Guru Maharaj's commentary, which kind of confirms this notion of what we call panentheism. It's another word, more Western one term for our doctrine of Achintya Veda Abhed, which means everything is God, but everything is not God. Everything is God in the sense that everything is in God. Everything is an energy of God. So panentheism means pan, in, theo. Pan means everything, in means in, and theism or theos means God. So all in God. Nothing exists separate from Him. Doesn't mean that everything is Him in every single sense of the term, but nothing exists outside of a connection with Him. So this is basically in a very clear way what Brahma is saying here. No? You seem to be in the world, but actually the world is inside of you. Everything is inside of you, in one sense. You are the womb of the whole, of everything else, if you will. So, of course, he refers here to the famous episode in the Bhagavatam. I won't go into the ultimate detail with that. That will be another series of lectures, Jashoda's darshan. But as you know, Jashoda at one point there are two different similar episodes, actually. One in which Krishna is accused of having eaten dirt, and Jashoda says, "Open your mouth. I've been reported by Balaram, your Maryat Purusha, your protector, the one who have to do the report. You ate dirt. Open your mouth." And Krishna, there is some earth there. Okay, yeah, there is some earth. Lots of earth, planets of earth, planets Earth, and so on. And Yashoda saw the universe, and inside the universe she saw herself looking at Krishna's mouth. Inside that universe, inside that mouth of that Krishna, saw another like this type of sequence, non-ending sequence that was like, what's going on here? And a similar pastime related in the Bhagavatam is that at one point Yashoda was breastfeeding Krishna. So a very Vatsalya intimate like setting, like friends in picnic. The parallel to Sakya's picnic will be Vatsalya's breastfeeding. In one sense, like very intimate moment of connection, mother and child. So you can imagine. And that is the very last moment you could expect someone like Yashoda will think Krishna is God or something. I mean, that's the moment she's most convinced she needs me so much. I'm sustaining him. He's so much depending on me. I'm so on. Her Vatsalya is like overflowing. And the overflowing of breast milk described in Shastra speaks about that type of overflowing of maternal affection. So at one point, Krishna is like drinking the breast milk, but at one point he's like wanting to, how's it in English? To yawn? Is it yawn? So Yashoda realizes that, so he takes out and allows him to yawn. So as you can imagine, something else was happening inside that yawning. So Krishna started to yawn, and Yashoda saw the whole universe within Krishna's mouth. Again, what's going on with this child? Every time I look into his mouth, I start to see weird things. So Yashoda started to tremble in surprise. Of course, her Vatsalya is always winning the equation, and she will never think, oh, he's God or anything. Like those weird conclusions that sometimes we hear that people say that my Lala is the creator of... anyhow. So according to Brahma, again, he's referring to this episode in this verse, Brahma, to gain further authority in his own statement. I'm not alone. And according to Brahma, the entire universe that Yashoda saw within Krishna is the same universe that exists outside of Krishna's body. So again, here you have this unique situation. I see a universe inside your body, but when I take some distance from that, I'm seeing the universe outside your body. Inside your body, outside your body. So, and this external universe is a manifestation of Maya Shakti, which is one of your energies. So again, Sri Krishna showed to Yashoda the universe within himself, and she showed himself within the universe. It sounds simple, and of course, but try to think about that till your brain collapses. That's part of the ruminating process. I'm not saying try to fully understand that with your brain. It never happens. But try to use your brain as man, so your head tells you, this is the top much reach I can get. And the brain is, well, your head will shout to you like, you cannot enter there through this. Stop trying. Please stop. Okay, you use your head properly there to soften your heart, as the Guru Maharaj will say. But you have to use your head to its limits, to push that to its last limit, so you can really realize, I cannot enter there through my head. If you don't do that exercise, still in a very secret, subtle way, you may have some hope. Maybe with my head, I can gain my entrance there. I can secure my seat there. I can have some glimpse of what's going on there. And it's interestingly, you are having those ideas because thinking that you can enter there through your head, because you are not using your head enough. Because when you use your head enough, you will realize, I cannot enter. It's not that when you use your head, you realize, now I can enter through my head. No, when you use your head, you will realize, I cannot go there by my head. But the more you don't use your head, the more you may still think, maybe with my head I can go. And by thinking that, you are not fully applying yourself to the proper exercise of the heart that is required to actually enter there. You follow my point? So all the things have to be in place in our life as sadhakas. I want to enter Golok again. I want to be a cow, if you will, as we were speaking before. There, like cow-like. I have to exhaust the capacity of my head. As much as I have, I may have not the greatest capacity as other people. Each one had their own big brains. Brahma has pretty big one. For this example of all this, again, he's showing the ultimate limit. We are too far from that. But he's trying to making his foreheads spin in another way now. So he's thinking about, reflecting about, and there's a point that he finds, yeah, there's a limit to it. I need grace, but we need to make effort to obtain grace, as my Guru Maharaj says. So that means, in other words, make effort to gain grace. One way of putting that is push your head to the limit. That requires effort. Generally, we are lazy in that case. I don't want to think that much. Tell me what to do, what to believe, and I just accept that fanatically, and I became a member of your team. Remain in my comfort zone and think that I'm saved. Something like that. But no, you cannot be intellectually lazy. Siddhanta Baliya Chitna Kara alas. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami will say, try to ruminate this, and he says, Nakara alas, means don't be lazy. He's saying that, don't be lazy. So push your head to the limit. We are not promoting intellectualism. We are just saying, you have a head, do something with that. Dedicate that in Krishna service to the maximum limit. So when you reach that limit, your head itself will reveal to you, yeah, I could accompany you till this part of the journey. I cannot go further. You need something else now. So we hear that, we know that's like that, but we may not have fully realized that. So until we realize that, we won't take full shelter, immerse into the transrational process of chanting and begging for mercy, because still we have some hope that other devices may be enough, because we have not yet exhausted those limited devices. So we need to explore them to their limits, to acknowledge this is the limit of this is the limit of my head, this is the limit of intellect, this is the limit of money, this is the limit of ego, this is the limit of sense pleasure. So you have explored them. I mean, I'm not saying with that go and degrade yourself so you really understand how limited that is. I mean, I think we have already had our, but we have to think about that properly. So you exhaust each of those options out. Okay. Now I really need to. That's how our surrender will be substantial. When we choose to surrender, we will be really doing that, having proper conviction and experience, and so on. So again, Brahma is realizing all these things here. He's not just saying some nice words, not like bureaucratic prayers. Oh, Bhagavan, you're so great. He's crying and totally moved and having one epiphany after another. So he's seeing this. Oh, you are in the universe, but the universe is inside of you. So the universe is a manifestation of your Maya, and your body is inside that manifestation of Maya, but your body is not a manifestation of Maya. This is another big point that Bhagavatam wants to make here. Krishna's body is not material. It sounds easy. Oh yeah, of course, Maharaj. But again, you have to think about that from so many different angles. So Krishna's body is not a product of Maya, especially Krishna's body, which doesn't seem overtly transcendental. It doesn't come with the extra set of arms and some unique, fancy features like whatever, a disc, cutting heads or whatever. It's just have a bamboo stick. It's like, okay. so, so our acharyas need to make this point. Do not misread this Nara Lila. Do not misconstrue the universe as being on a pair at the same level with Krishna's body. Here's the universe. Oh, yeah, there's one body inside that universe. It may be the same thing. No. And also, we are not promoting pantheism. We are not saying the universe is God in every single sense. The universe is inside God as one of his Shaktis, but he's different. And his body is not touched by that. Although avatar, all that descends into the body, that's the principle of avatar. Transcendence appearing into non-transcendence and not being touched by it. Although it seems to be part of that, especially in the Nara Lila. Because you have other avatars which seem pretty much more transcendental. I don't know, like in Srimadev or something. Like, wow, what's going on here? But Krishna seems like one of us again, and that's the charm of the Nara Lila, as my Guru likes to say. That's what allows creating some emotional bond. Arjuna has a similar vision, no? As you know, Arjuna in the Gita, when he saw the Vishwarup, universal form, not exactly the same thing, but he's had a similar experience. All cosmos is within Krishna's body. He saw that. Arjuna shows some curiosity. I want to see that form. I heard about that form. I mean, he's not the devotee attracted really to that, but he was curious. And Krishna said, okay, you're my friend. Like we are friends. You want to see something. Like a friend tells to other, hey, show me whatever. That movie or whatever. You do, okay, show me. Okay, you're curious. I'll show that to you. And Arjuna saw that. All cosmos coming from Krishna's body. It is said that Srinivas Puri, one commentator said, by Krishna's grace, in this precise moment, he creates that situation. Brahma obtained divine eyes, and he's not only recalling here what Yashoda saw, but he's actually Brahma having a darshan of that lila at that moment. No? Like Srinivas Puri says that Brahma is speaking while beholding the universal form to Yashoda, as though he were showing a plum in his hand. Plum, like a fruit. So like for a moment, nice to see it. For a moment, Krishna showed that to Brahma. Okay, when he showed that to Yashoda, like if you show someone, oh, here's a plum. So he gave like an image of that particular lila, with Yashoda seeing all these unlimited universes. So again, the point is, the form of Bhagavan is not limited by time and space, which is how we generally think of forms. If you see a form, generally, even if you don't think about that, your natural conclusion is that's in time and space. That's not beyond time and space. But Krishna's form is not like that, although it seems like that. And many committed that mistake, Krishna says in the Gita. Abhajanantimam mudam anusimtam unashritam. Many people who is full like people misread my form and think like I'm an ordinary human being. Param bhavam abjananto mama bhuta maheshwara. But they do not realize my supreme nature and that I am actually the supreme controller of all living beings. So people who saw Krishna when he was on earth, if you will, actually didn't see Krishna. So that's my point. I mean, you need divine eyes to see Krishna. You need bhakti to really see who Krishna is. Many people saw Krishna, thought he's an ordinary guy. Let's kill him in battle or whatever. So it's not that you have Krishna here and it means that you are seeing Krishna. So we start to see Krishna through the eyes of Siddhanta and finally by the eye of love. Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena. So Krishna's form is not limited. Krishna's form is unlimited. And as my Guru Maharaj likes to say, form can limit, but form can also facilitate. Like he gives the example of the artist who have some internal art that she will like to express, but you need a canvas to express that. You need a form that will facilitate the inner expression of something which is invisible, abstract, beyond form, but needs a form to be expressed. So we have an example even in this world how form can facilitate the expression of that which is without form. So the same applies to Krishna's form. It's not limiting, it's facilitating, allowing Lila to happen, basically, allowing all these types of interactions. And again, all this is preparing us and preparing Brahma for the Nara Lila and all its implications. Because remember, Brahma's had a darshan of the Krishna's human-like Lila a few minutes ago, but he didn't pass the test. He couldn't understand what was going on. He saw this ordinary. So now he's realizing this was not ordinary, it's super extraordinary. He wants to enter there, but for enter there, you have to have in place, this is not ordinary. This is totally transcendental. Of course, when you are fully there, you may think this is ordinary. Because nobody in Vrindavan thinks we are extraordinary, this is totally transcendental. They say we are ordinary village people. But for you to get to that ordinariness, first you have to appreciate the extraordinariness of that. And this is what Brahma is doing now, because Brahma is not yet an accomplished Siddha. He's a sadhaka, like us, of course. And we are not comparing in every single sense, but he's on his way to perfection. So a sadhaka means someone who is engaged in sadhana. And as I like to say, sadhana means, one of the ways you can translate sadhana is a theoretical appreciation of the reality of bhava. In other words, bhava means the emotion, in this case, that the Brajavasis have. So you have to appreciate in theory how extraordinary that is. And you have to have it clear, this is extraordinary, this is not ordinary. As a sadhaka, you have to educate yourself like that. When you enter there, you won't think like that. But to enter there, you have to think like that. So again, Krishna in Vrindavan is appearing medium size. He's not appearing very tall, very expansive, but he's showing all the things, no? Like the Damodar Lila, which is a very similar situation. So there's wanting to tie Krishna, and what happens?
Never enough growth.
So Krishna is growing. He's growing? No. Krishna is not growing. But if he's growing, that's another thing. He's expanding. Okay, I need more rope, more rope, more rope. But Krishna is not growing, never. But rope is never enough. This brings more rope, tries to tie. But Krishna is not growing. So the mathematics is not working here. So Krishna is making this Leela is making this point, actually. So again, the idea is Krishna is appearing medium size, but the whole universe is contained within his body. How? By his achintya shakti, by his inconceivable potency. Again, this is an important word, achintya shakti. He has energies which allow the otherwise impossible to become possible. So he has medium-sized body, and he's pervading the whole universe with that. He doesn't need to have a very big body to do that. He's medium-sized, the whole universe is contained there. At the same time, he's not touched by Maya Shakti. So I have some more things to share. I have not yet even started with the commentaries. We have some time?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So we mentioned the Virat Rupa for a moment, some words about the Virat Rupa, this called universal form that Arjuna saw. It's important to understand that Krishna's personal form, original form, is not to be compared with the Vishwarup. No, Vishwarup actually, uh, for example, how the Bhagavatam is presenting that is a material form. In other words, it's a way of relating to the universe, by connecting its different parts to Krishna somehow. For example, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami is giving that. He's describing this cosmic universal form and comparing the planetary systems to Krishna's bodily limbs, beginning with Patalok, and Patalok is the souls, you say, of his feet. And the grass is his bodily hairs, and it's a way of creating a connection between this world and Krishna. But in one sense, it's not Krishna's personal spiritual form. It's seeing the material energy in connection to its source. So that's Sukadeva Goswami says in the Bhagavatam. That's an explanation for neophyte yogis, basically. Like, you have to begin somewhere. You are too much drawn to this world, start to see God there somehow. So you can purify your mind by such meditation, basically. So Sukadeva Goswami is recommending that in the beginning to Parikshit, interestingly, which of course we'll see Parikshit is way beyond that. But by saying that is making the case some people may need that in their particular practice or situation. Interestingly, in the Bhagavatam himself, Sukadeva Goswami used the word stula, which means like gross. So when he's describing Virat Rupa, universal form, he refers to that form as the gross form of Bhagavan. No? Like again, Bhagavan has no gross form, but the universe is gross. So by connecting some aspects of Bhagavan to the world, in that sense, the world is Bhagavan. But again, Bhagavan is beyond the gross hood of this world. So indeed, Sridhar Swami is saying that this Virat Rupa is anupadi. Upadi can mean many things, but in this case, it's a kind of substitute for Bhagavan. Now, some people still is not able to relate, to conceive God in a personal form. Okay, so you see the world as God. Again, it's a subtle form of pantheism, but it's just a way of connecting. It's not saying in every sense the world is God, but see the world in connection with God. God has his own form, which is the womb of the world, which appears in the world, avatar, but which is beyond it. Let's continue with Sanatana Goswami's commentary. I won't go that long, have hope, but let's see. Sanatana Goswami is saying, but Parikshit Maharaj was 7 days without food nor drink, so nor sleep, so hour and a half. I think that's, if we want to follow Parikshit Maharaj's footsteps, I think we can begin with 1 hour and a half. It's possible. So Sanatana Goswami says, he's paraphrasing Brahma. You as an avatar, remember avatar means from up to down. Someone who comes from his own abode, transcendental, enters the world, but is not in touch. That's why the word incarnation actually is not fully accurate, because incarnation implies is incarne in Latin. Carne means like flesh, like implying you enter into flesh. But in this case, avatar means you are not touched by the flesh, if you will, beyond the flesh. So you as avatar are beyond Maya. Brahma says, implies to Krishna, and the worshippers of your avatar are also beyond Maya. So he makes this important point. As you are beyond Maya, those who worship you are beyond Maya. Of course, Krishna is avatari, the source of all the sense, but somehow he's also avatar in the sense that, functionally speaking, he's coming into the world. In that sense, he's avatar. He's from up to down, descending and appearing. But he's the source of all those forms. So as you are beyond Maya, those who worship you are beyond Maya. As much as they worship you, in that proportion, they are beyond Maya. Daibihi esha gunamayi Mama maya duratya mameva ye prapadinte mayamitam tanamtite. Krishna says in the Gita. He says, my maya is very difficult to transcend. So you can imagine if he says very difficult. I mean, it's not difficult for him, he's beyond, but he makes a point. It's not easy. But he who surrenders to me can cross it very easily. So this is a point being implied here by Brahma through Sanatana Goswami. So Brahma implies, Sanatana Goswami says, though you appear as an avatar subduing Maya, that's generally the function of the avatar, certainly, he means certainly, you manifest Maya. Because what to speak of you subduing Maya? You manifest Maya. That's your Shakti. You are the supreme controller of Maya. You manifested Maya. Prakati Kritam. The expression here in this verse, Prakati Kritam, is you are the manifester of Maya. So what to speak of you being beyond it? It owes its existence to you. So again, Brahma is realizing all this. Some minutes ago, he thought this little boy is doing nonsense. He's in Maya. He thought Krishna is in Maya. And now he's realizing you are the source of Maya. That's quite a leap. So he's somehow trying to illustrate that. So that's what Sanatana Goswami is saying. I'm not quoting today's Sridhar Swami because he mostly in his purport, he's paraphrasing the verse. Sometimes commentators just paraphrase the verse again, just to make enough emphasis. Let's go to Srila Jiva Goswami in his Lagu Vaishnava Tosani commentary. So he's saying in 3 verses, this one and the next 2, Brahma again proves that Krishna's body is the highest tattva or principle of existence. So the emphasis in this section is Krishna's body is the all in all. He addresses him, Brahma addresses Krishna. O Lord, destroyer of Maya, you cannot tolerate any connection with Maya. And this was seen how you removed Maya from Aga and others. This is in connection with the name Maya Damana in the verse, which means subduer of Maya. So in the words of Jiva Goswami, you cannot tolerate any connection with Maya, implying you are never touched by it. And remember, he said, this was seen how you removed Maya from Agasura. This was just a recent event also, remember. I mean, 1 year on earth, but for Brahma it was just like a moment. And he was seeing that, how Agasura was totally freed from all. Agasura means, Aga means sin. So Agasura means the very personification of sin. So lots of Maya have to be there for you to be called the personification of sin. And at the end of the Lila, Brahma saw how the soul of the Atma of Agasura entered Krishna's body. It was, wow, what a power to purify someone from Maya. So Brahma is reflecting back on these things as well. Not only what just happened, but even what happened with Agasura, all these connected Leelas in the sequence. Of course, the word Maya Abdamana, which means you come to subdue Maya as an avatar, naturally implies that if your form comes to subdue Maya, it means your form is not a product of Maya. It's not possible. And again, as we generally see every form in this world, a product of Maya. Every form in this world is a byproduct of the gunas. So be careful if you just meet Krishna on the other side of the corner. And think, oh, yeah, I'm proud of him. Again, you can say, but you cannot see Krishna. But we see that many people saw Krishna when he came to this world. But they saw him with material eyes, which of course means they didn't see Krishna. I mean, they saw Krishna, but they didn't see Krishna. So my point is, even Krishna may appear in front of you, but if you don't have your trained vision, you will see something else. You will think he's ordinary. You may think something. It's not that you won't see anything. You may see something, but you think, oh, who's that ordinary blue fellow or whatever, as many did. Like what Duryodhans wanted to trap Krishna. I mean, he thought Krishna's form is, how do you say, trappable? It's possible to trap him, basically. It's possible to tie him. Of course, Yasoda thought the same, but that's a different Baba altogether. And Duryodhana wanted to trap Krishna before the Kurukshetra battle. And Krishna said, you think you can trap me? Okay. And he showed universal form to Duryodhana. He expanded. And Duryodhana didn't know when to begin to tie Krishna. Or at the beginning, there is no end. How can I just start even conceive to try to tie you? He showed like, you thought I was something and my form was limited. And now I'm giving you a glimpse of what my form actually is. In his Bhagavad Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami, Anucheda 34, he's sharing Brahma's intent here. Many of these commentaries, basically, they themselves will say, the gist of the verse means this, the intention of Brahma is this, like implying maybe you are reading the verse, but this intention behind the official words. So Brahma is saying through Jiva Goswami, that's the Brahma we want to hear. Through Jiva Goswami, through Sanatana Goswami. In this avatar called Krishna, again, regarding Krishna descending into the world, which subdues Maya, you showed your mother that the material world is both within your belly and external to it. And thus, any limitations the world might impose on you are illusory. It seems you're limited by time and place, but it's not happening actually. That's Maya. It seems it's happening, but it's actually not happening. It seems it is this, but it's not that. You follow? That's the effect of illusion. It's not that Maya is illusory in itself, but what Maya makes you see is illusory. Maya is real. Maya is the Shakti of Bhagavan. The magician exists, but what you see through the trick, that's not real. You follow? So what you are seeing in the trick, the magic trick, you think, I don't know, the rabbit disappeared or whatever. The cards are taken another. He's tricking you. But the fact that you are being tricked, that's a fact. That's real. But what you are seeing through the trick, that's not real. So that's the idea of Maya. Maya is not it's non-existent. It's one of the Shaktis of Bhagavan. It's real. But what you see through Maya, that's not real. So Maya says, Brahma, through Jiva Goswami, Maya generates the illusion that you are within the universe and that the universe is outside of you. That's the influence of Maya Shakti. If you think that, of course, the Brajavasis will think similarly, but under the influence of Yoga Maya. So again, it's important to also differentiate these two expressions of the Maya department. Actually, by your inconceivable internal power, though you have a medium-sized body, you pervade everything. And this is, again, what Brahma is seeing right now. He has Krishna right in front of his face with a morsel of food and looking here and there again. And he's realizing, who are you? What's your form about? No. He before spoke about Narayan, Vishnu lying in the waters, kosal waters. Now he's seeing Krishna in the universe. So although Narayan lies on the water, although Krishna exists in the universe, they are not actually supported by these elements. They are the support of these elements. Although it seems they are supported. It seems Narayan is supported by water. He depends on that to be supported. Krishna is supported by planet Earth, the body. No, they are being the support of all that. And this again is something that we need to wrap our heads about till we reach its limits. Now, Srimad Bhattan says in 13th verse, 9th chapter of 10th canto, regarding when we speak about Krishna's body, there is not inside and outside, as we may think in our body. No. Inside my body, outside my body. You cannot say that regarding Krishna's body. Once there's no difference between inside and outside. Everything is inside his body, although he seems to be outside in the universe and so on. So you cannot make difference of inside outside regarding something which is unlimited and transcendental. Wow. I'm seeing Burbaka trying to think about that and collapsing. So that's the idea. That's what the point I want to take you. Where some little smoke starts to come here, it's okay. You're reaching the gates of the Achintya plane. When you realize I need further revelation to enter into the land of the inconceivable. So it's good that we are trying to think. Again, it's not that you are thinking you are a jnani, you are an intellectual, just accept and have faith. You have to think, knowing this is a limited device, but I want to test the limits of this. So because it's important to have deep realization how limited are my devices. Because we can say we are limited, but how much we know how limited we are. In connection to the unlimited, in connection especially to trying to reach the infinite. So you have to reach your own limits. Again, I'm not promoting neurosis and going beyond your limits. No? Well, that's a different thing. Going beyond your limits and reaching, acknowledging your limits. And in this way, taking the proper stance towards the unlimited. Let's conclude with Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's Sarartha Darshini. He's paraphrasing also. He makes a lot of in-between dialogues between one verse and the other. And sometimes he makes a very, like, if you will, mischievous words that Krishna may say to Brahma. Because Brahma is praying, so he's crying, but he's been so serious in his prayers. But Krishna sometimes will reply to him like in Muktata. Muktata means like innocent, naive, innocent boy from Vrindavan. Like, what are you telling that I'm God and I'm the source of Narayana? What nonsense is that? I'm looking for my friends and calves. No? So Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur will present this in between dialogue and say, and in reply to that possible thing, Brahma will say this now. So Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur similarly here he says, Krishna might retort to whatever Brahma said till now. You are the source of Narayan, pretty fancy stuff. Krishna might retort, it makes no sense that Narayan, who lies on the water of the universe, holds the universe within his abdomen. Because Brahma said that before, speaking to Narayan, about Narayan. Of course, he connected Narayan to Krishna. One may find a pot within a house, but one can hardly expect to find a house within the same pot. Krishna is speaking. Thus, you were not in my abdomen. Remember, Brahma is saying, I was born from the lotus coming from your. You were not born from my abdomen, and so you are not my son. In previous verses, Brahma was making this case. Everything is within your womb, so you are kind of my mother. And also, I was born from the lotus coming from Vishnu, and you are the source of Vishnu, so somehow you are my father. And Brahma has no mother and father in the normal sense of terms. His mother and father is Krishna. So he's trying to make this case, and as we will see, mainly he makes this case because he made a huge mistake some minutes ago. So he wants to be forgiven now. So he's referring to Krishna, well, my father. As a father forgives a child, you have to forgive my offense, please. He's trying to reach that compassion. But Krishna is again arguing like this. I say, so you are not my son, Krishna is saying. And again, Krishna is in the Brajavasi spirit. Like, I am an ordinary child from the village, and you are the great Brahma. You are telling that I'm your father? I mean, how does it work? So Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, in order to establish the oneness of the universe within the Lord, and that outside the Lord, and to re-emphasize how he's Brahma, Krishna's son, Brahma speaks this verse. And the implication of Brahma by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur is the following. Brahma implies, O supreme controller of illusion, Maya Dhamana, in order to show that the external universe also exists within your abdomen, you produce an illusion for Yashoda, Yogamaya in this case. By the influence of your Yogamaya potency, you appear within the universe and simultaneously exhibited all the universes within your body. That's pretty Yogamayic. Similarly, though I am within your abdomen, again, he's connecting all this. I arose from your abdomen and I am situated here now. So I was born from the lotus from your navel. So in one sense, I'm inside of that, but now I'm seeing you in front of me. But everything is inside of you. So I'm inside of you, but you are outside of me. So this subsequent idea that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur implies here is that Brahma is saying, even now, I directly belong to your abdomen. Brahma is saying, even though I seem to be outside of you, I still inside of you, and so you are directly my mother. In that sense, like a mother holds a baby on the womb, and he will say in previous verses, Brahma will say, like a baby is in the womb of the mother, and the baby may kick the mother in the womb, but the mother won't be offended by that. Actually, she will be happy. Oh, he's alive. He's there. How nice. So similarly, Brahma said, I am within your womb. Everything is everything is inside you. And I did some mischief some minutes ago. It could be compared like the kicking of the baby. So you shouldn't be angry with me. Please forgive me. So that's another important point to have in mind through all these verses. All these verses that Brahma is mentioning are in the context of Brahma begging Krishna, show me your compassion. Please forgive me. He's acknowledging, I made a very big offense, but I need your forgiveness. I engage in aparadha. And just to conclude, Baladev Vidyabhushan says something in this connection, and we finish with this. He also comments on the Bhagavad, and he's paraphrasing Brahma similarly. So Brahma is saying through Baladev Vidyabhushan that the body situated on water and abiding inside the world has a world in its abdomen is in contradiction. It may seem a contradiction for us. It's a contradiction for us. A body like Narayan, Vishnu is in the water, but at the same time, the worlds come from that body who is inside him. Not for Krishna, for us. That's an important point. Whatever is contradictory for us, that means it's contradictory for him. I understand this, and I also understand that this too, your body is inside the world, and your body has the world in it, are accomplished by the Achintya Shakti, since even now I am in your abdomen. So Brahma is having this insight, interesting realization. He's understanding these two things are actually possible simultaneously. You appear to be outside of the world, but the world is inside of you. And I'm having a realization of that. I am speaking to you, and you seem to be outside of me, but I having this insight that I'm inside of you at the same time. And again, Baladev Vidyabhushan makes the same point. The drift of this is a parent should forgive the offense of the son. So the context again, Brahma is trying to hint at this. You are my father, you are my mother. Even you are my grandfather, if you want to take the lotus as my father and mother. Brahma was born directly from the lotus, but the lotus comes from you. So you are my grandpa. You are my guru. Please forgive me. At the end, the converging point and the practical conclusion is show mercy in me. Brahma is crying again. He's not just like playing and joking with Krishna. He's really repentant of that. So anyhow, some words we want to share with you today regarding this particular verse, and in the next verse that I think we will see tomorrow, or I'm not sure.
Yes,
tomorrow. Okay. So Brahma will again refer to his recent experience to further show this point that Bhagavan's body is all pervading, although it seems medium size. But we'll finish here, and I don't know if there are any pressing questions you need to make. I mean, we already went a long time. If not, we continue tomorrow. I don't think we will get that long. But if you have something,
I have a little comment
Yeah.
about this. You said this reciprocation. They shake hands. And it was the Krishna side, and I don't know if you mentioned this in previous talks, but I remember Guru Maharaj gave a talk about this. Like he said that Krishna shared his predicament with Rama. That that this nature of love. So he infused Rama with this Shakti of creation, but it includes also this predicament of love, in human society. So we're like heartbroken and so on, and this comes from Krishna's predicament. That he cries out to us, help. and we can see it in our lives as well. So that's it.
Thanks for sharing. Very interesting
And
contribution.
another thing regarding form, I think one metaphor, because we generally understand the world using metaphors in everyday life as well. The language is metaphorical, mostly metaphorical. But it wouldn't be that. For example, the form that can be all pervading at the same time. It's a great candidate for this is sound or musical forms. But music can be localized and can be pervading, and that's maybe that's you say that like Krishna Nama is actually him, right?
Yeah.
In this way,
yeah.
It's form and it's all pervasive.
Yeah. And then, as you mentioned there, we should do as you are doing. You should think about the things to the point of trying to find as closer as possible, even metaphors or notions in this world, as much hints as possible, than expecting only like a superhuman revelation that has to appear in front of me. But first of all, go to the things that are already available there, like the example we gave before that Guru Maharaj gave of a form that is facilitating and not limiting. And you may think how that can happen. You can, let's speak about art and a canvas, and it's something that everyone has experience of, but maybe we never thought about that in that way. But it was there, but we may not realize what's taking place right in front of our eyes. So it all begins there. No, we don't need actually to go that far to find. But I'm reminded of one quote by Thomas Merton, maybe different line, but he said, your salvation begins in the most ordinary moments of your daily life. Like implying, if you are not able to grasp something transcendental in the most overtly, apparently ordinary thing, don't expect that thing will reveal magically somehow, but try to engage and work in a way that you start to think and see and find this type of connections. Because our tradition is not world denial. No, we are not trying to reject the world so we finally attain transcendence, but we can find it here basically. And the ultimate form of transcendence for us is pretty much worldly like. So that for us shows how much we should find that now. Because it's, when you look at Golok Vrindavan, it seems quite similar to here. So the idea is you don't need to go that far, but actually where you already are, try to find that place.
To make it full circle.
Yeah. At the end of the days, it's like that. And you realize, like Gopa Kumar doing all that journey and at the end returning back on earth. Okay, here I am. After going by Kuntha and all this extraordinary, here I am again. So, of course, we may need to go through some experience to fully appreciate what was right there. Anyhow, thanks so much for the contribution. Okay, we'll stop here and tomorrow we continue with more Harikatha Brahma-stuti. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Sri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadri ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Brahma-stuti ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Bo. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnava vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Bo.